Hello.
Don't know if you can hear me. Hi, Theda. Theda, you'll have to tell me how to say your names properly. Therin, Therin, love you. Now, as we've just been introducing ourselves, Paige is our special guest today, which is very exciting for me. Let me
Oops,
tell
sorry.
you. Oops, it's
There we go.
okay.
I'm just trying to get the background out. There we go. That's better.
Oh, that's okay. We're just I'm just sort of getting to know where everybody's come from. Do you actually, Paige, take a pause, teaching myself. First thing I will do is I'm going to do our welcome to country. Most important. Okay. The Queensland University of Technology acknowledges the Turrbal and Yagara as the First Nation owners of the lands where QUT now stands. We pay respect to their elders, laws, customs, and creation spirits. We recognise that these lands have always been places of teaching, research, and learning. QUT acknowledges the important role Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people play within the QUT community. And because I'm located in Western Australia, my respects go to the Wadja and Noongar people of Western Australia. And I believe that we are very lucky in this day and age with everything that we're watching happening across the globe, that we are peacefully all living together and managing a lot of the issues around leadership, leaders and leadership, and full recognition of our traditional owners of the whole of the Australian lands. And I will leave on that note. Now, Paige, as I said, how do you want to do this? Do you want to introduce yourself or would you like to meet the students first?
Can I do both? Is that all right? I'll
You
introduce
can do.
myself and then ask each of them to tell me who they are and what they're working on.
Absolutely.
And a big welcome to Ola as well.
Oh,
Ola, do you want to say hello before I kick off?
Yes, thank you. We are very privileged having Paige because Paige set up eGrad School. She was one of the people who created eGrad School. Paige was our director. Now she moved into more exciting and more important positions in a university because she's such a good leader. So thank you. It's so nice to see you again.
That's lovely. Thank you, Ola. So my name's Paige Maguire. I'm a former academic. I'm an associate professor. My PhD was in medicine at the Faculty of Medicine at University of Queensland. I was on the team that developed Gardasil. And so it was sort of in genetics, immunology, and cancer areas. I went on to do a joint fellowship at Harvard Medical School and Mass General Hospital in America, and then ended up working in Silicon Valley in a startup company. So which led me into a sort of a funny nexus between academia and universities and the corporate business areas. Made me a little bit less likely to go back into pure academia purely because I was learning lots of other things and it was a lot faster paced. But ultimately brought me back into the university sector to help universities become better at their translation of their research and help HDR students to be sort of more across the broader skill set that they're going to need to be graduates of a research degree in the day and age, which is why I ended up with the eGrad school and doing lots for QUT. I'm now the executive director of alumni engagement for the university, which means I connect the community, corporates, alumni, corporate partners, future students, so people right from the very beginning in high school, right to the very end when they want to come back to university, connect them back to the university. So it's a bit of a broad portfolio. Very happy to be here to talk to you about my journey and what leadership looks like, particularly in a higher education sector. It's quite a niche area, but very much a skill set that can be transferable anywhere. So I don't know what the order is that everyone can see on their screen. So Gosh, how are we going to do this? Sarah, would you like to be the first to kick off, just to introduce yourself and what your background is?
I'm Sarah, and I'm based in Box Harbour with Charles University, and my PhD research topic is the detection of fake news in social media. And my background was, my undergrad was in agricultural science, so a bit of a changeover. So it's good fun.
Awesome, thank you. Sahiti?
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, kia ora. My name is Sahiti. So I moved from New Zealand to Melbourne quite recently for my PhD. And my PhD is looking at 3D printing of food for dysphagia, which is a swallowing disorder. So we're going to be creating these amazing looking foods, 3D printed foods to manage this condition. And yeah, I'm looking forward to connecting with everyone and sharing these experiences with everyone. That's me. Thank you.
Thank you. Layla?
Hello, me turn.
Hello.
Hello. My name is Laila. I hold a Master of Science, Bachelor of Science, and PhD of Engineering. I got my PhD from University of Southern Queensland at 2022. Then I got a grant from Advanced Queensland Research Industry, and been worked as a research fellow and lecturer at University of Southern Queensland. I came out from University of Southern Queensland, and now I'm a first year student of optometry at University of Technology in Queensland.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Theda, we've been watching you walking round and round and round. Glad you're finally sitting down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to find a spot where it would be easier to talk. Yeah, thank you for waiting though. Yeah, I'm Tida. I came out from Germany to Australia to do my PhD at QUT, working on the cartilage of mobula rays, which are the cousins of manta rays, looking to, at the moment, just find that baseline knowledge, since there's not a lot known about this particular tissue, and hopefully integrate that knowledge into finding regenerative medicine and tissue engineering results for human conditions where cartilage fails and there's not an ideal alternative at the moment.
Awesome, thank you. Sophie, you're next. If you don't have a camera, that's fine, but if you're able to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Hi everyone, my name is Sophie. I go to James Cook University, but I'm from the US. I'm studying platypus ecology in the Atherton tablelands, and they're just understudied subspecies of platypus. I'm just starting my PhD. I'm a week in, so I'm still formulating questions and specific objectives. But I have a strong community connection in the area, and the initial parts of my research will involve citizen science. So yeah, hi, nice to meet everyone.
Thank you. Crystal, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi. Yeah. I don't know if my camera works, but
Yeah,
anyway.
we can see you.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm Crystal. I'm down in Melbourne. I work in the public service, and I'm doing a PhD in QUT, and my topic is on gambling and mental health under a public health framework.
Interesting. Thank you. Sophie. Sophie might not be there. Okay, we'll go to Tharindi.
Hi, I'm Tarindi. I'm from Sri Lanka. Currently, I'm based on James Cook University, Townsville. So I'm doing my PhD, and I'm currently second year PhD student. My PhD project is based on the role of potassium ion channels in abdominal aortic aneurysm. So I'm looking for some promising treatment targets. So basically, I'm working on vascular surgery and medicine. Thank you.
Yeah, very interesting. Niku?
Hi everyone. I'm a PhD student in a second year in environmental science at the University of Adelaide, working in collaboration with the CSIRO and the industry partner. And my research focusing on developing novel sorbent formulation for PFAS removal from water and immobilization in contaminated sites. And my background is in polymer chemistry.
Very
That's
fascinating.
it.
We could solve the world with this one group. Now we'll go to Mali and then to Bagavi, and I think then we'll leave it. If we've got any more latecomers, we might not do that after, unless we've got time at the end. So, but Mali, do you want to introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Miao. I'm a senior lecturer at Towson University, so I'm teaching civil engineering subjects in Bathurst.
Welcome. And Bagavi, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hi everyone. My name is
Hi.
Barkavi. I am an alumni of University of Auckland. Currently working in New South Wales as a project manager.
Welcome. Thank you. All right. How do we kick this off, Anna?
Well, now thank you for organising those introductions. What I was wanting to do was to maybe ask you, Paige, first of all, and then maybe get some responses from students. In terms of leadership, like we talk about leadership in this course, and we have leaders. Now, one thing I've always respected in terms of, what you've made clear for me is that, really differentiate the difference between what we're talking about when we talk about leaders and what we're talking about when we're talking about leadership, because I think that also makes, that also impacts on what we understand of communication in those. So would you mind sort of kicking that off and then?
Yep. So I think that quite often people get the words leader or leadership and management interchanged, and I find them to be very different things. So management really is something where you're managing an outcome. You know what the outcome is. You've got a set of steps that you need to get to it. You might be a really organized person, so it'd make you a better manager. You might be able to achieve that outcome at a different level because you're good at managing that thing, but it doesn't make you a leader. A leader is quite often someone who has more of a strategic lens around where they want something to go. They need to bring people along with them to get to that point. They have a vision. They have an ability to influence decision making towards a common goal. They can understand people and what people need to, what the skills that people will need to get there. They will influence that skill development piece towards that goal. It's basically a much higher level of operation. It's an executional sort of mindset, a growth mindset towards I need to get over to that point and I need to get everyone to come with me. And what do those people need to come with me? And how do I make the best for ultimately for my organization or for my business if it is my business? So a very different set of skills. Some are overlapping, but a very different set of skills to being a manager. And I think leadership can be teeny tiny. It can be leading a little team around a set of a thing that you need to do. You don't actually have to be the team leader. You can be a leader within a team without being called the leader. Or you can be an executive who has to be a leader. I've seen some executives, conversely, who are not leaders. They really shouldn't be given that title. So it's a very different skill set. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And when you said that some managers shouldn't be given the title of leader, I particularly noticed, Tida, have I said it correctly? Nodding her head like this. And I just thought, do you have an example that you could share with us? And you don't have to name names or anything, but just what you have personally observed. I can't hear you, sorry. Your microphone's okay.
Thanks. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, I was nodding along because that is my experience of academia. There are a lot of executives in positions where they're supposed to lead without having the skills to be able to do that. In fact, yeah, any experience that I've had with academia, as soon as you get above a certain level, there are people in position where they shouldn't be.
It's a really great comment. And I think that's part of the reason why I ended up being with the eGrad school and then developing the broader framework for QUT around skill sets is that I think there's an assumption that with higher education and in particular incredibly successful people academically like you guys who go on to get a PhD or a master's or whatever it is that you're aiming for, there's an underlying academic assumption that if you are that smart, therefore you're going to be great at being a leader or great at managing people. And also there's almost, not you guys, but there's almost an arrogance or an understand, like not wanting to accept that you need to learn something else. I often used to comment, particularly when I was working in industry, that having a PhD doesn't make you the smartest person in the room. I think when we're in an academic setting, we forget that. That there's still things to learn, that just because, and it's a horrible message to be sending people who are on a journey that takes years to finish. I get it. But there's always something else you need to learn. Just because you end up getting that lovely doctoral parchment, it doesn't mean you finished learning. And I think that's what happens in the thing that Tata has recognised is that some of the really, really good academics who are really good at being academics have forgotten that they need to learn how to be good leaders and have forgotten that they need to learn how to be good managers of people. It's like working with people and leading people is probably the hardest job I've ever had. It's much easier to write a thesis, even though you probably don't think that at the moment. You're in control of that. The timeline's yours, even though sometimes you just want to throw it and walk away from it. That's up to you. It's your single relationship with that thing. Whereas people are really incredibly complicated beings that each require a different way of dealing with them, talking with them, trying to get the best out of them. And I don't see that, as Theda has mentioned, in some academics who lead teams.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for that, Paige. I have to say that's what I experienced myself. But one thing I will share with you that there is, this is a concern and it's become a global concern. And there's a Professor Matthew Flinders over in the UK, Sheffield University, who's really taken it on board to address this issue across, with the various higher education institutions. And it's something that I guess what, I'm hearing you too, Paige, is that we need to address here. Now, I have to admit, I've worked with Paige, almost 20 years, because we worked together side by side in the role that, I've kind of hung on to. And you can tell I hung on to it because I've got all the grey hair to show. But because I loved it's not just, it's the teaching, but when Paige did take over, her leadership style very much meant that she was doing things like listening to people, giving people space and room to try and understand where they're coming from. It's very easy to be a leader as we are witnessing in our world. Okay, give me an example of someone who is not a good listener and is a global leader at the moment. Anyone want to put their hand up?
I think we all know who you're talking about.
Maybe. I think there's more than one. Anyone? Yes.
Donald Trump.
Yes, very good. 10 points to you. Another one? Maybe. There's probably two more.
Donald
Sorry?
Donald Trump.
Someone a bit further east. Are you talking about someone further east?
Maybe further east, up in the north. A big
Putin?
country. Sorry?
Putin?
Yes. I think his listening skills could do with a little bit of work. And there's someone which is very sadly from a country where people have been persecuted for a long, long time, who's not as good at listening as I think he could be. I'm trying to remember his name, our Israeli Prime Minister. And we have had women who have also not been good listeners. And Paige, I don't know if women like Maggie Thatcher, but in our academic circles, I believe, and I think that I don't know about you, Paige, but there is this sense that you were talking about, Tilda, that's there, we're not listening. And as leaders in your research fields, and the reason I'm bringing all this up is because as researchers, you are currently recognized as leaders of your project. Eventually, will you be looking at leadership positions?
I think that happens organically, right? If you guys become really good at your research and you go up in, through the academic levels, that ultimately you will have teams under you because that's what your research funding will bring. And I think the thing to remember about that is all of the KPIs and the metrics that deem you as successful researchers really are about only your research, the publications you've got, the research collaborations you've got, all of those metrics that that you're judged by do not include leadership. They do not include how you've built your team and maintained that team culture. And I think that if you want to be successful leaders in the research area, you have to take it upon yourself to remember that that's just as important, even though you don't get value. You don't get, I guess, rewarded metrically from it, but you will get rewarded by the actions of your team. And I think that's what sometimes that we don't train, well, no, definitely no, we don't train young academics in. It really becomes a self-selecting thing, whether or not they decide to think that they need this sort of training. But I think if you look at all of the research around leadership and all of the executive coaching that they do, and I've done some as I've got more senior in my role. I was over in Stanford a couple of years ago doing exec ed for the graduate school. One of the big monikers that they always use is culture eats strategy for breakfast. So you can have the best researchers under you, you can have the best team under you, but if the culture of your research area is awful, you're not going to get the best out of them. And in fact, quite often you're going to see a little bit of an implosion. You might have already seen that in some of the environments you work in. So the best research environments I've seen is when you've got a really strong leader who is responsible, and they recognize that to get the best out of the team, to get really good research outcomes, is to build a happy, functional, well-functioning team. And that would include, just really focusing. I mean, I still do it now, and I've got a big team now. I've got about 7 areas under me. I really focus on culture and making sure that there's something that is not about the research that the team has to include in their KPIs. So that's just something to think about, and thinking about, we talked about listening a minute ago, but thinking about what do I need to give back to them. One of the big lessons I learned as a leader was that people have different styles. So, I'm very much an action-focused person. Ola can nod her head about this one. Come up with an idea, execute it, get it done, get the outcome, move on. And I had to learn in my earlier years that people will sometimes need time to think about that. If I ask a question, say, well, what do you think about that? And they don't answer, it doesn't mean that they're not engaging in what I'm talking about. It just means they have a different way of processing and need to come back to me on that. And I've had to learn to respect those different styles. And when you don't, that's when you start having issues. So that listening and respecting piece is really important too.
We have a couple of questions. Meow.
I was listening to Paige and Anna talking about listening. Some situations, like for example, university, they may have a change with a certain time frame, and I find that's really hard to because the university, especially for the middle range of leaders or managers, the upper level is saying you have to do this now. Then when you go to your reports, it's really hard can be one very there can be explanations, but then people are really not following, like they're not on the same time scale yet. And then the change has to happen. So in our team last year, it created a lot of disturbance, a lot of separation and no trust in the team. And I just wonder what a middle level leader should do in that situation. There was no time to listen to everyone. There was no time to send draft for feedback. the change has to be done because university is running out of money.
Yep.
So what's other strategies there?
Good question. So, I mean, unless you're the Vice Chancellor, you're always going to be in the middle because there'll always be someone above you and someone below you. So part of your job will always be managing up and managing down. And that is purely expectation setting. All of that is like a big part of my job is setting expectations for people above me and people below me so that I can over deliver and and don't undersell myself. So what I do in those cases is for the people beneath me, obviously the reason why they're rejecting that notion of having to do something is because it's giving them pain. There's something about it's actually making their workload too much or putting tensions on what they thought they have to do in addition to what they're being told they now have to deliver, is sit with them and set some priorities around, okay, this has obviously become the highest priority based on what the upper management have communicated. What can we move to the side so that you can get this done in that timeline and make the other things less of a priority and then get back to them when you've got time. So resetting some of their workload and work expectations about timelines for the other things that were not part of that communication to give them that breathing room and make them feel like they can accommodate that sudden decision. And then working upper into the upper management by saying, these are the things that I have decided that the area needs to do in order to accommodate that decision you've made. So, what was it maybe a priority yesterday is now a secondary because this has become the priority. So you have to take ownership for some decision making and communicate both ways to make both of them, accountable for that decision. Does that help?
Theoretically, yes.
That's part of the leadership journey, though, is actually being, and sometimes the buck stops here. Like you've got to take that risk.
The real situation was quite complicated because people was the team was emotionally attached to the original product, but it doesn't bring revenue to the university, so you want to change. So there was a lot of no trust. There was a lot of under surface discussion, even personal attack. And
I hear you. And that comes down to culture. So that's why maintaining that culture, and it's, obviously you can't retrofit that if that's not the case when this decision's made, but that's why keeping that cultural piece as a major part of the everyday life. If the culture's good, then the team does have that trust. And the team can respond and go, guys, you've done an absolutely amazing job on this project. It was always, important to the university. We just can't afford it right now. And they would feel okay about that. I mean, I've had to do that in some of the areas that are under me now. They had to completely pivot what they used to do into something different. And their perception of that decision was that the university didn't think what they did was important. And, my response to them on that one was, what you do is incredibly important. We just need you to focus on a different area at the moment because that is urgent for the university. They really see you as, key agents in this decision. They really want you to focus on this now. It doesn't mean what you used to do wasn't important. It just means we need to refocus it in a different area now.
Yeah.
Right. Layla, I can see you've got your hand up.
I'm here from a very, very challenging professions I have had. At the end, I resigned from my job. And I'm wondering whether or not leadership skill can guarantee successful and being successful in a profession, or it just another criteria that make you a better candidate for some jobs. Because as you mentioned, we mentioned a couple of leaders in the world. They are leaders. So they don't have that much leadership skill, but in somehow they are successful. So I want to balance to see leadership skill doesn't guarantee being successful. Successful doesn't guarantee to be a leadership. I want to know about the balance between them.
I think strong leadership gives you the ability to decide whether jobs are right for you or not. I think it depends on what the organisation deems as successful and whether or not you want to engage in that success. So if you look at the US at the moment with, who's leading the country, it really does depend on your political leanings and what you view as success is. He is a very strong leader, a very strong leader. He makes very decisive decisions. He brings a lot of people along with him around those decisions. And if you are happy with those decisions, and if that's what or let's just call the United States an organization, if the organization has set some targets that they want to achieve and he's achieving those targets, then he may be considered a strong leader by many of his constituents. Others would incredibly disagree with that based on the way he makes decisions and the lack of inclusivity and some of the other things that he's doing to achieve those targets. So when you are a person who's applying for a job and you are a leader, you should be drilling into some of those organizational values, some of those cultural pieces, some of those what do you define as success for this role? What would you expect me to do in those situations to get to that point that that you're looking for me to target? And if the responses by that organization do not align with what you would consider a successful leader doing, then it's not the right place for you.
So totally, yes. And somehow we cannot generalize people being a good leadership or not a good leadership. Maybe it's more related to personality type, to be the leadership skill.
Yeah.
So leadership, I don't know. I'm here. I'm 40 years old, and still I don't know if my leadership skill is in somehow weak or the system in somehow wrong. Still I don't know. No, I don't know.
Layla, sorry, do you mind? Layla, there is nothing weak about you. You have leadership skill. We all do. It's a matter of bringing that forward. But I think the systems that we're in, like I can also name people like Martin Luther King, like many others who were amazing leaders. We have science leaders. We've had leaders all coming from different cultural, ideological, philosophical, religious perspectives. Now, if I'm kind of like guessing your accent, but in the Middle East, there are leaders that are considered leaders, like Paige was saying, Trump is a leader, all this. But it's once again, we all, I believe wholeheartedly, and I have the 70 years, so I've got a few on top of you, but it's like we all have leadership ability, capabilities that we can develop, but it's about if we're in the right place and time. People like, for example, Martin Luther King were just in the right place and time at the time that he led the I guess, in a way, the social revolution of non-violence in terms of the way that he moved with all his people in addressing issues of inequality and discrimination and racism. All right. Now, I think Paige has made a great point, because there are a lot of people who do support the current leader in the United States. And it's not necessarily, whether I personally might have my own views of him from my perspective, but that comes again, from our not a good leader. But what we need to understand is that it's what drives us as individuals and to hold true.
You mean
also
that?
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupt you.
No, you're right.
You mean that? Yep, in the right time, in the right environment, in a progressive situation, work environment, a leadership skill help people to grow better, to find opportunity better. But in a toxic environment, Toxic people, not right term, leadership skill cannot help you that much because you're in the wrong place. Yes?
Yeah, leaders aren't going to solve the problems of the world for you. They're not. That's not their job. They are very outcome-driven and strategic-minded sets that will get a team an achievement, but they can't change people, put it that way. So, Theda, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure how well it links to where we just left
That's
it.
okay.
I heard something different, and I think what Layla was asking, but I heard a little bit of, are there leaders that just use leadership skills as a tick on a box to say that they have these characteristics, so they must be a leader because they have done all this training or have these skills, but they don't really, it doesn't translate from having trained those skills to then
It
actually
doesn't
be
make them a
that
leader. No.
Yeah.
Doing a leadership course will not make you a leader.
So I was wondering, looping it a little bit back to what you said earlier, that in your teams or that huge team that you lead, you always ask or provide or offer for your team members to do something outside of those metrics that will help the culture. How involved do you get in that, or how involved should a leader, an actual leader, not a paper leader, be in that?
How involved do I get, Ola? Involved? I get very involved.
Yeah.
So top down, it's always top down for me. If your leader is not involved in setting the tone of your organization and your culture, then it's not really going to work. So I set metrics, like even to the point where we have performance reviews for all of the staff. One of those KPIs is always about culture and involvement and making sure that the team is functioning and that you are contributing to that. So I expect it all to be a team leadership approach. I always instill across the calendar team activations to make sure that the teams are humming and that they are collaborating across, not just going up and down in silos. And I also am very visible all the time. And it doesn't matter whether you're the lowest ranking team member, my door is always open.
And I think the other thing I've noticed with Paige, if I can say, as our leader at one stage, is the fact that she's always also been willing to take positive feedback on board. For example, if I wasn't feeling that I was being listened to 100%, I could go to Paige and say, look, can I just have a little bit more clarification on this? So it also depends on how you put it to your leader. But Paige was always willing and open. But obviously, there's a direction she's going. And if I don't want to follow in that direction, I have a choice.
Yep.
We have choices. It's like being in a marriage, although I put up a lot more than I did at work. I've been very lucky with work. When I say lucky, is because if I found the leader to be not of my values and that, I go. Some people find that very scary, but I was more scared of leaving. Life is just a big learning lesson, is a big classroom. And as I think Ola and Paige know me well enough, I've gone back to start a BA again on some other subjects because I just love learning. And I'm learning a lot from all of you. And
I think one of the things that I notice in having, because I've been working in the HDR space for years, is that HDRs tend to feel like they lose their agency when they're studying, they're doing their thesis. It is such a solo journey. And it is such a hierarchical journey. You're so dependent upon your supervisor as almost like a food source, a source of light, that I think you forget your agency. You have agency. So when you then enter into the workplace, you feel like you are very much not able to make decisions and to think more broadly. Like you were like that before you started your thesis. Don't forget that. Don't lose yourself in that one book that you're creating or whatever it is that your outcome of your thesis will be. still remember that this is your journey. You get to make decisions. And then you become that person at the end. And I see that all the time with HDRs. They completely lose their agency and they feel like they've almost usurped them, like given themselves to their supervisor to make all the decisions for them. That is not the case.
Yeah.
So, and this is where you get to decide, what do I want to do? What skills do I think I'll need at the end? What sort of researcher do I want to be after this? And I'm not talking about your research skills and your research discipline. I'm talking about your professional identity.
What I can add about team culture, which we learned from Paige, is we had a lot of planning days and also a lot of brainstorming activities. You are part of a research team. You actually have this opportunity too. So don't be afraid to say what you think about some I don't know, aspects you are discussing with your supervisor, because this is the moment for everyone on your team. Everyone can say, exchange information, and then leader can, that's the leadership, a good leadership will allow you the moment when you can actually share your point of view, contribute to your team. And it's a big deal. And being in this big isolation, it's not good for you, but being a part of remember that you are part of this team, supervisors or some other advisors, or even colleagues running the research around you. This is a big moment for you to learn and apply it for the future.
Mia, you've had your hand up for a while, and yeah, we'll go with you.
Thank you, Anne. I just I'll leave that question about being a female leader later, but I'm just curious to ask, is there a sort of a formula of a leader? For example, they always talk assertive, they always carry themselves with confidence. They will not walk in the office barefoot. They will not fiddle their hair. Is there some formula like that? They always talk? Well, what I'm thinking is, how about I fake it until I make it?
I think that's a female thing. So I'm not even sure. Do we have any men online? I don't know if we do.
No, I don't think we have today.
I feel like
One is
there's a big imposter thing going on with a lot of women, that they do feel like they're faking it till they make it. That's actually a cognitive behavioral therapy technique anyway. That you can't be it if you can't see it. So sure. So it is the same for men, I agree, but I think women are more prone to it. And if you look at the data, it is in fact far more female gender focused. So, but I don't know if there's a formula. I think there are a couple of key things. I think the ability to have hard conversations is really important as a leader. You can't dodge those, and the ability to be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. Growth is a massive part of being a leader. If you're stagnant and you're sitting in one place, that's not leadership, because you're always growing towards goals, growing towards the next big thing that you've got to achieve. To do that is always going to be uncomfortable. So you've got to feel okay about feeling uncomfortable and putting yourself in places and situations that you're not used to. You might not have all the tools on you at the moment for that meeting. You might have some missing elements of information, but you've got to back yourself and be able to go into that meeting, know what your bottom line is. That's another piece. Always understand, what do I want to get out of this meeting, this interaction, this communication? Why am I here, and what do I need to achieve? Or what can I not lose? That's your bottom line. Ultimately, that's negotiation 101. Having that and being comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, whether it's a networking event or whether it's an important meeting you're going to, that's leadership for you. Holding the line around where you're headed. I think we touched on this about 10 minutes ago. Sometimes you're going to have team members who do not want to go the direction that you have to go. It doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means they don't want to do that. Your job as a leader is to be okay with holding the line and going, look, this is where you are at the moment. I need you to come over here. This is where we're headed, and hold that line. And ultimately, they will have to make a decision whether they want to come with you or go somewhere else. It doesn't, as I said, you're not responsible for the decisions they're making, but you need to hold that line and be okay about that. Another part of leadership, obviously, is being able to communicate well and meet the person where they need to hear you. You can't come into a room, and I see this a lot, particularly because I was a STEM scientist, people think that saying big words and lots of fabulous things makes people listen to you. It doesn't, if they don't understand what you're talking about. So really understanding, why is that person sitting in front of me, what do I want them to know, and what do I need to know from them? And not doing that big fatal download on people, pausing and letting them tell you what they heard and asking them what they need from you. That's really important as a leader as well. Ask questions. You don't know everything. You can't know everything. You've got to ask questions, and you've got to rely on the people around you to give you that information. So as I said, I don't think there's formula, but there's some key areas that you've got to be good at.
I really liked when you said ability to have hard conversation and to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's it. Because if you're not going to be that person, you're never going to be moving into that next level of leadership. You'll be hiding from it. And that's part of I know there was a networking question somewhere in there. That's networking. The more uncomfortable you are, the more you've got to push yourself to do it, because that's not going to change. And that teaches you to get used to being uncomfortable. I mean, I used to, when I was a lot younger, hate having those horrible conversations with someone and think, gosh, am I making them feel bad? I mean, I've got a lot better at it as I've got older. But now I feel like I'm not being kind to them. Like, clarity is kindness. You've got to be clear with them about the expectations of the organisation and let them understand what the org is telling them that they need to be doing now. And if you're not being clear to them about that, that's not kind. And so now I feel like I'm being kind to them as a leader to make sure they understand the expectations. So, Crystal, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yes, thank you. I was just trying to get back to the point we talked about being a researchers, and people in the research team don't feel they're being heard or they have an agency. I have another problem I want to share with my PhD journey, that my supervisor actually let me lead the whole phases, that how I want it to be. And that's why I come here, because I do have something have developed in my thesis, and I want to take it further by leading some people to go along with me. But at the same time, my supervisor really helpful, giving me the resources academically. But how can I, as a one person, to try to sell my ideas and put it out there?
So this is a deviation from what you thought you would be doing for your research. Is this that you're changing directions a little bit?
Oh no, not quite. It's all out there, but not just academically, because my supervisor let me do whatever I like for my thesis. So at the same time, I am the person who really need to sell that idea out, because they are part of it, but they don't feel ownership in that.
I think just from a generic perspective, if someone like your supervisors are all busy, and that's, like academics are just stretched in general. They've got so many responsibilities. Giving them another problem to worry about, or giving other people another problem to worry about if they're busy, is what typically is the pain point that makes them go, ugh, I don't want to do that. So I always tell my team, if you come to me with a problem, come with a solution. Or come with a bunch of different solutions. Have a think about what the pain, your changes that you're suggesting are going to cause the people who are going to be resistant to it, and then present them with some options for how we can decrease that pain. So and I think I've trained anyone who reports to me now to do this. I never get someone coming to me with a change without having a bunch of different things that they can say, but here's what we can do, or here's why I think it's important. Here's what the outcome will be that will make our lives fantastic. This is what I think that we can do to remediate some of the issues that will cause if we make this change. And I think that's what you've got to think about. What are the other people who are going, I don't feel like I want to be part of this journey with you. What can you do to help them?
Okay.
With you?
So we're listening, come back to the point you mentioned before, try to listen to what the pain is, and then to try to remove it or give them solution on that. Okay.
And even having that conversation with them will make them go, oh, okay, you are thinking about this.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's all right. Layla?
Me too. Okay. I have thousand questions,
Yeah.
but I try. Times fly. Um, I'm wondering to grow our leadership skill. Should we focus on personality type or not? You know, you told us that.
Can I answer your question in a short way?
Yes.
You need to focus on experiential learning. I think you need to put, like, you can learn as many skills as you can. I think experiencing discomfort, putting yourself into environments where you're not used to, like volunteering for things, taking on a little project that you can be the lead on, going into seminars and standing up and saying, my name's Dr. Bazmi, I'm blah, 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 blah. I have a question for you. Making yourself visible to other leaders in the room so that they will go, oh, she's great. I want to bring her onto a committee I'm on. That is where you start to then apply the things you've learned. If you keep just trying to build some of the, the more academic skills around leadership, never applying them in practice rather, is going to make it difficult for you. So I think you guys are at the precipice of the next big thing in your careers where you've got to start to improve your visibility and start putting yourself out there a bit. That I always have this, when I used to lecture a lot, this picture of a fish in a little glass bowl next to a whole heap of other glass bowls. And I've considered those bowls opportunities. You've got to be ready to jump at any point. So if an opportunity comes to you, don't balk, jump at it and go, yeah, I can do that. Even if you're thinking, oh, gee, I can't, I've never done that before in my life. Give it a go. Just give it a go. And that's where you'll start to go, I've got that skill, but I don't have that one. I've got to learn how to do that. And I've got to, I see that person doing that thing over there. How did they learn that? Can I watch them? Can I learn that bit? That's the only way you're going to pick up those skills. And one of the big learnings for my life has been watching great leadership, learning from those people, modeling their behavior, and not doing the bad stuff that I've seen other leaders be really bad at. Going, I'm never going to do that. That I watched what happened to their team when they did that. That's like, note to self, don't do it that way. So I think that's part of that applied learning that you need to be more focused on. Because I've seen some doozies, put it that way.
Yeah,
So,
just go. Okay,
yeah.
try and go. Okay.
Yeah, just put yourselves out. I mean, this is part of that broader piece. You're not just your thesis. The outcome of your degree is not your thesis. It's you. So yes, your thesis is the asset that you can demonstrate that you've achieved a particular level of learning and a skill set of research. But you ultimately are the outcome of that learning. And you should have other skills on top of that one thesis. So you should be able to articulate, I'm fantastic at this research thing and I've learned all these methodologies and I can interrogate this data and do this stuff, but I'm also sat on committees and I've chaired something or other and I was the student leader of this and I was that sort of thing. I organised something in my research area where we had a literature club or something. That's where you start to apply those skills.
Thank you.
It's all right. Conscious we've only got a few minutes left. How do you want to finish up, Anna? Do you want any wrap-ups or other questions?
Sorry, I was just reflecting at what you're saying, Layla. I actually had, my experience is that I knew when I was working at one point that I was never going to be picked as a leader for some reason. Not as a leader. I had been picked. I have done a lot of leadership work, but as an organization, these our formal organizations, whether it's a university, whether it's, and for all the reasons. So I set up my own company business, and I made myself managing director. So you could create your own. Did no consultancy. I mean, that's one of the, like I'm here teaching with QUT at that time. I think I was consulting. And one of the things I was consulting on was leadership, because I'd worked, in an organization as an executive, but it was around leadership. You create your own opportunities. What Paige is saying is very wise advice. You've kind of got to jump in there. And what would make you happy, you know, when you're looking at the people around you and the people that you're leading and the people that you want to guide, it's like, if you think of any of the leaders that you admire, what they wanted was what they wanted for themselves, and they then express that for others, you know, in many ways. I mean, I'm always going on about more the kind of, when I say good leader. I think we're you know, I know we're coming close to 1 o'clock, and I know Paige has to go. There's a lot more we could discuss, because also one of the other things that I quickly pick up is the whole concept of, you know, what attributes makes a leader. And often they come across as being quite, when we say assertive, we're almost meaning aggressive, but it's not. And we must remember, and there is a paper that that is in your readings, but it's about quietly, softly spoken people are very important leaders. You know, they are not, we don't all have to be extroverts. The introverts have a lot to offer as well. And I think this is where, you know, it's just one of the many tools that we need to learn about how, in terms of communication and interaction, why we look at communication as well at all forms, is because we're learning from each other, and we're learning about different styles and types of leaders, and you find what fits you, and yours might be a totally unique way of moving forward what you want to, what you're aspiring for. Okay. I don't know whether you have any final comments, Paige?
I do. Mia, have you got a really quick question before I wrap
It is
up?
a quick one. I was just
Yeah.
going to ask you, you said watch great leaders. Can you give us some example that we can watch, like either books or YouTube or
Oh
anything?
gosh. I'd have to really think about that. Can I get back to you? If I think of anything, I'll give them to Anna and she can forward them.
And I'll post them
I'm
that
more
way.
of a experiential person rather than a book person. I think
Yeah.
of people that I admire. And that was what one of my final closing points were going to be, is look around you and have a look about what are the good examples of leadership you're seeing, and start to really look at that as you go through where you are. Think about, you know, what are they doing that makes me feel like they're a good leader? What do I want to take from that? And start to, you know, look, you know, my whole life I've always had mentors and champions. A mentor, and it's not like, you know, you don't have to say the M word to them to be their mentor or for you to be their mentee. They are just the people that you can always tap on the shoulder and say, hey, can I just ask you a question? Or can I just, you know, shoot the breeze or go have a coffee with you occasionally? They don't need to know that they're your mentor, you know, because if you use that word a lot with people, they go, oh my God, I don't have the time. But they can still be your mentor without them knowing it. So, you know, look to those people and start to develop relationships with people that you would like to aspire to be like. And it doesn't have to be everything about them. I mean, I've had mentors who are accountants and lawyers, had nothing to do with my career trajectory, but they were great at stuff. They were good leaders. And I wanted to get to know how they did stuff. And then you have the champions. And the champions are the ones that you make yourself visible to. You really want to be in front of them a lot. You want them to see you high performing, because they're the ones that are always going to be thinking every time someone comes to them and go, hey, do you know anyone who's good at this? Do you know anyone who'd be great in this job? They're the ones that would go, oh, I do actually. I've seen her or him before. They're fantastic. Let me give you their contacts. Visibility is key in your area if you want to be mobile and going upwards. I can't tell you the last time I actually had to apply properly for a job, because every single time I've had someone tap me on the shoulder based on a network, because I've you know, since I was in my late 20s, I've been really visible. So, and I've made it, that is one of my key things. Like I sat on committees, I was the chair of the Women in Technology. I was, you know, I was biotech. I was on all these committees. I had a little tiny young family at the time. I was, you know, sleeping on fumes, I think, but it's what you do to maintain that visibility, and then it calms down a little bit, because then you get to pick and choose what you want to do. You're not constantly putting your hand up for everything. So mentors, visibility, and champions are something that you need to put on your list, that as just a business as usual thing.
I have to agree with Paige, because I've been through the same.
Great
get
advice.
tapped on the shoulder if you go with your passion and, go with what I always look, for me, I identify leaders by their, I guess, their sense of human rights because that's my drive. All right. Everybody's different. Some are more business focused. So who's the best financer in the world or whatever? I mean, or you have an eclectic mix of that. But, their own leaders' values. And you can only get to know that by talking to them or engaging with them, as Paige has very well explained. We have a lot of readings now, and we can send you some, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like, who are you? And then now I'm going back to the Zen, the Buddhism, and the origins. Who am I? What are my values? And who out there do I know as a leader, whether it's an old, past, present, back in the whatever century or whatever, and what can't, it's what you have inside your essence that actually comes through. It's not just, oh, here, I've got a list. This is my qualification and I can do all these things. It's great to have that because that's what our world demands of us. So we do this. But in terms of who you bring to the table, it's much deeper than that. Anyway, sorry. Thank you, Paige.
That's all right.
Thank you. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you for turning up, guys,
Thank you.
on a Friday afternoon. It's a bit of a big ask, I know.
Oh, it's wonderful.
But I wish you all the best with your studies. I'm sure you're all going to go on to do great things, and pace yourself.
Yeah.
And don't feel like you've got to be everything to everyone.
Will you come back again? Will you come back to talk with us again?
Potentially, yeah. My diary is my enemy, so yes, it's just.
We do have a gap or two. We will ask Paige to join us.
Only if you want me to. I mean, I can,
absolutely
break after a little while. So, but yeah, I really look forward to hearing what your next adventure is. And as I said, it's just pace yourself. You get there, and don't forget who you are on your journey. You're there for a reason. You're not, and it's your decision making that's important.
It's very inspiring to hear you talk, Paige.
Oh, thank you, and it's lovely to meet you all.
Our whole team felt this way when
so much. Yeah.
Paige was our boss.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's great. It's been a wonderful session, everybody. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate it.
Happy Friday, everyone.
Thank you.
Happy Friday.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
And just a question. Do we have this? I just saw that in my calendar is once. Do we have this couple of sessions? We have 4 sessions, don't we?
We have 5.
5.
Yeah.
Do you know the upcoming one?
You've got speakers for 3 of them. So Paige was our first one. Next week we have Shastra. Amazing.
Yeah, that one was sent. Yes.
Yeah, week 3.
It's on the Thursday next week. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's slightly different days, but depending when they're available, we might be able to slot Paige in again towards the end. Maybe the mentoring session. Yeah, we'll see. Every time we run these, they're all a little bit different, and every year they're different. And
guest speakers, yeah.
Yeah, the guest speakers sometimes. Paige is a regular in one way or another. Paige has always been a regular because I think of her passion, her sincerity, and her openness, and it's just who she is. But we do have some other great presenters who are going to co-facilitate this with me, and Ola and Alexandra, our wonderful. I would not be able to do any of this without Ola's help, support. It's ridiculous for me to even think about. But I want to thank you all. Are there any other questions that you have that I know I can get a bit esoteric, but any other questions more sort of that you...
And to be honest, I haven't been onto the site and do much yet. So should we just go? Huh?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah.
Go online to the module. There's a lot of content, and also there's more opportunity to connect with other students and Anna, because online discussions, at least 1 per week, mostly 1. So jump online to the module, and then you will see it's just there's a small content and then online discussion.
And there's plenty of readings. You like some of the TED Talks podcast?
Yeah, we have some
They're not too
videos.
long. They're really interesting. Yeah. I think for me, one of my life learning experiences with this topic is that you have to get in there and do it. And if someone recognizes you as a leader, accept it and go with it, and then just do the best you can. But really, at the end of the day, and it depends what kind of area you want to be a leader in. I mean, you know, the areas that Paige is leading in, you know, that's her. And always, I'm very clear in myself that I know who I am. I keep reminding us who I am, where I want to go, and what I want to be a leader. Even now, for me, it's all around the human rights, the equity. In fact, my early years in my career was spent with the not-for-profit sector. There wasn't much money around in those days. It was only contract work, and that's fine because that's all I've ever done. But in those days, it was about back in the 1970s, 70s and 80s. It was about human rights, access and equity for all the groupings that now, you know, to be really honest, we still have issues, but in those days, people still didn't have a problem. I have an Italian background, as you can see from my name. They didn't have a problem calling me a wog, you know, or some other derogatory term, because it was just, you know, awareness wasn't arising. And that's what you do. What is it that you want? What's your passion as a leader? What, you know, you're all doing PhDs that are really significant and going to make such an amazing difference, whatever your field is, you know, and you know that, you know the difference it can make. Trust that and go with that, you know. And who do you want to lead? Who do you want to come along with you, you know? For me, it was more, I was part of the grassroots in the early, you know, and that's because it's all well, I'll be really honest with you, it's all well and good knowing the people, you know, the people at the top, but you've got to know what's happening down here too. So it's about bridging the gap and bringing people together. Yeah.
And I just checked, I don't have invitation for week 3 and week 5. Is it okay
Yes,
to
we are
send that
waiting
to me
for.
again?
That's correct. We are waiting for confirming our guest speakers.
Oh, okay, that's why. I just saw 3, so I was a bit panicked there for a
Still
second.
happening.
No,
We're just
no.
waiting for
Sure.
a response from 2 guest speakers.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So the general, you know, kind of mail out of the information so no one will miss out. Sorry, Layla, do you have a question?
Yeah, sorry, we are running out of time, but
I'm sorry.
I still have a question. Visibility is play a significant role in being seen with different potential and opportunity. LinkedIn is one of the best platform. We can go through that. Apart from that, LinkedIn.
Oh, LinkedIn, yeah, that's one.
Apart from that, what's your suggestion?
Well, there are other platforms as a researcher. Your ResearchGate, academia.com, that's more an international one that you can go through. It depends, I guess it really depends where you want to reach out to. I mean, you can also, you know, even via LinkedIn, you can just email. Like, you know, I was telling you about Matthew Flinders. I was actually going to do some research in that specific area, but with the government changes, I won't go into it's a long story. But I just sent him an email and just said, I'm really interested in your work. I find it fascinating and it's inspiring me to, you know, to do research or write a paper or whatever. Just see what comes back. I mean, he came back with look forward to writing a paper with you at some point, you know, and really interested in me. That's everybody wants to link together. That's, you know, everybody wants to come together, you know, like what you're looking for, Layla, is what everyone else is looking for. Believe me, you want to make a difference. I mean, why do you want to be a leader? Number one.
Yeah, you're asking this question
Yeah,
from
I'm
me.
asking why do you want to be a leader? And in your field, I'm imagining.
I think that I have a commitment to the world and I've been born to make a great difference for the human. I think it's my commitment. And if I can do that, I never ever done my goal.
Okay, good. That's fantastic. And you will. You will
I
do it.
try to do that.
Trust you. One thing a leader always does, and I learned this a long time ago, when you fall, this is an expression, is that you fall flat on your face, you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you keep going. Never, ever give up. Resilience. I mean, one of the questions you'll have on as a quiz is what attributes do you think you need to be a leader? Resilience, tenacity, some of those, they are really important. Later, if you have a dream, go for it. Probably one book, if I was going to recommend you, Martin Luther King, his life story, that's probably one that is, for me, it was very inspiring. Pick a leader, a science leader, you know, the life of Marie Curie, who was a scientist, for example. I don't know who you see as leaders in your field. Read about them, see how they did it. You know, I think Edison, you know, invented the light globe. You know, I think he did the experiment 100 and something times. I mean, it's a fact that everybody knows. You know, and don't ask to be. You know, like for me, it's not about being asked to be called a leader as such. It's just that you know intuitively that you are bringing people along with you on this journey, or they're following you.
Okay.
Leaders, yeah.
I've heard another expression, if I can pitch in on that,
Oh, please
which is
do.
something along the lines that you only fail if you fail to get up again. Otherwise, it's just a fall.
Perfect.
Thank you. That's great.
Which, yeah, I think it's a great picture because sometimes you are in that moment where you have
Oh,
fallen and
yeah.
it's your decision whether you want to stay there or whether you get up and go the next step.
Yeah. If it's
Well
to
done.
be, it's up to me. That's right.
Mm.
And you just, you know, once you trust yourself and you go, you will start to be like a magnet for people who are just going to want to come along with you, and you all go together and everyone, and then you'll all be leaders, because I believe that leaders in any organization, anywhere, every single person is a leader. All the other master students are the other postgraduate students and all the students across the universities that you attend, they all see you as the leaders of that university, and they see you, and collectively we see you as leaders because you're at that level of your education where you have worked hard to get to where you are. So they're looking. So just remember, leadership is, and we lead our children, you know, as parents. I mean, Ola knows this one too, you know, and how do we lead them? And I still work very hard on self-development and self-growth from not just, you know, the practical level, but from a spiritual level, if I can use that terminology, how to grow and be a better person. Because, and that, you know, so there's that I do for me and my children and friends, you know, there's different types of leaders. Leaders are not, you know, and there are a lot of wise, ancient people that have come into our globe, and we're still learning their lessons now. I mean, I think, Layla, can I just have a guess? Your country of origin, or your family country of origin, is Iran? Farsi half mizanam yekam.
How do you know?
Yeah, I married a Muslim, and he was a
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of my
From
exes.
Iran?
Yeah, from
Oh,
Iran.
really?
It wasn't from somewhere else. That's how
Oh,
I know.
good.
Perfect.
Thank you, everyone.
Good on
Bye
We'll
you.
catch you next
now.
week.
Thanks,
Bye.
Mel.
Yeah, see you then. Bye. Yeah.
Okay. Good on you. You learn another language. Good.
Well, it was either that or stay silent, and I'm not very good at total silence yet. I better let you all go, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I know, you know, sometimes